Excellent. Good evening and welcome to the school committee meeting of May 11th, 2022. Just reminding everyone that this meeting is being broadcast on WHCA and also being recorded. As we do with all meetings, if you could please stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. Public comment. I don't see a large gallery here tonight. Post-budget, the Celtics game, lots of other things going on. There's like 5 things going on in the fields today. So, anyone here for public comment? Everyone's good. Okay. Student advisory report. You said Anna is...
I don't think Anna's here. I think she might be running right now. But I do have the Student Advisory Council are the 2 students that are elected by the high school to serve on the state Student Advisory Council. The Student Council ran an election last week on May 2nd. May 6th, they were voted in. We have 2 students representing us from Whitman, Hanson, Matt Ward and Laura Laguerre, our Regional Student Advisory Council folks that will take office in June and serve us on the state board next fall.
Great.
Just letting you know.
Congratulations to them and thank you. All right, approval of the meeting minutes. I think it was just the April 13th, 2022 minutes, so I would entertain a motion to accept the April 13th, 2022 minutes as presented.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, Jeff, all yours.
So moving into my report, annual town meetings were held last Monday, May 2nd. Prefacing that, before we get into how they came out, I just want to say thank you to this committee for keeping to the strategic plan, keeping to the goals that we set last summer, pushing forward with a budget that I think moves the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District forward. I think giving something to our students in one of the budget items that we've been waiting for almost 20 years. It was outstanding to be at the Whitman Town meeting last week, hearing discussions on different warrant articles, hearing very little discussion on the school department budget. There were 2 speakers. One speaker spoke about our 5-year plan and some thoughts around us not being able to afford our 5-year plan moving forward. And another speaker who said we need to do better for our kids. We need to keep our kids in our vision moving forward, looking now not only to the programs that we're putting in today in fiscal 23, but looking forward to recovering some of the programs that have been cut and looking outside the box to programs in the future. In Whitman, the Regional School District budget, Article 2, passed without question, unanimously, with a round of applause. I don't know if that happened in Hanson. I believe so in Hanson. I got a little trickle that there was no discussion in Hanson as well. The other piece about town meeting, all our warrant articles went forward, meaning, and I'll highlight these for the committee and for the public. A new kindergarten playground in the Conley courtyard, repairs to the Conley playground to make it ADA compliant. A new playground for the Duval School, and I want to also highlight Whitman DPW will be doing a lot of the excavation work at cost for us. I have a couple of concerns potentially around costs around both playgrounds, and I spoke to Mr. Heineman saying that if Bruce gets low and when he's excavating and finds things that we don't know about because these playgrounds were put in 20 some odd years ago, we're going to have to be coming to the Board of Selectmen to discuss more funding and potentially a special town in Whitman. But the playgrounds are there. The middle school at Whitman Middle got a new HVAC system just for the gym and the ceiling fan to look to identify and remediate some of the mold issues we've had. And then the Conley got the Big A fans in their gymnasium and their cafeteria that have been put on hold since prior to COVID. In Hanson, the middle school has a significant amount of their roadway, they're replaced. The middle school gym floor will be refinished, and the boiler water line, there's a reimbursement for the boiler we had a problem with this year. District-wide, we're looking at 2 new pickup trucks. Ernie talked to the facility subcommittee today. That's going to be challenging because pickup trucks are on hold across the state, and we have to go through the state bid list. The roadway here coming in, you've noticed it's been miserable, so the faculty parking lot and the roadway are going to be repaved. We're doing an evaluation on our rooftop units here to see the efficiency, since most of them are almost 20 years old, and then a drive replacement. So overall, I just can't say thank you enough to the taxpayers of both communities supporting the regional school district in their capital items and in the district budget. And we will be working hard to make sure that we're working efficiently and effectively, but putting our students and our faculty forward in the next fiscal year. But I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to this committee to staying forward thinking this year and making the budget process, although long and detailed, a win for us and for our students. And I believe our townspeople are starting to see the good things that our school does. Any questions on town meeting at all? And I pretty much
Just a quick, I know you kind of filled in on the Whitman side, on the Hanson side, I think everyone was there from the committee, but everything was supportive of the schools. The select board, it is now the select board in Hanson, by the way, the select board had, in an earlier meeting, determined that they had intended to pass over the refinishing of the floor, but there was some good discussion at town meeting where, after that discussion, there was their support as well to move forward with that. So to Jeff's point, it seemed like very good support from both towns, and certainly I know we're all appreciative of that support. So
and we have gotten multiple phone calls from parents that are happy with their deposits coming back for kindergarten, and just saying thank you. Thank you for staying the course. But we have had, Michelle got a couple of emails, this is great, thank you so much, thank you. And we've credit card reimbursements were easy, checks were a little bit more detailed. So we sent out some information, but again, thank you to both communities for supporting our regional school district. The next request is interesting. I got something from Lisa Green, town administrator from Hanson, who got a request from Representative Cutler on April 25th, which said, hi, Miss Ruth Masters was a Hanson school teacher in 1977 when she was murdered in Miles Standish State Park while riding her bike. A small stone memorial has been at McQuan Elementary for many years. The school has since closed down. The rock is still there, almost completely hidden from view, flanked by overgrown bushes. Out of respect, I believe it should be moved to a location more fitting, perhaps Indian Head Elementary. Thank you. Lisa said, what do you think? I said, I have no issues with moving it to Indian Head, but I wanted to run it by the board because we don't usually move memorials, and that building's no longer ours. I wasn't here when it was put in. I want to keep to the memory of Miss Masters, but before we put anything on school grounds, from school grounds or move it, I just wanted the board's thought and approval on that.
Yeah, I'd like to add a little to the story, which most of you probably didn't know. Ruth and I were team teachers at McQuan, and we taught 4th grade together. I was out on maternity leave when this happened. Ruth and her daughter would stop by about every Friday afternoon to see us, and she had told us called me on the Wednesday or Thursday of that week that she wouldn't be stopping by on Friday because they were doing a family outing and going to Miles Standish, riding her bike. And then I received the phone call that weekend, well, Monday morning, because it was Memorial Day, that they had found her. And it was really tough on the kids because they had a long-term sub for me at the time, and now she was gone. So the kids all thought I died too, because I wasn't there. So the principal had asked would I come in and show the kids and see the kids, and Ruth was a very kind, quiet person. The memorial was set up a little after all the ceremonies and everything were done. We thought it was appropriate. So I'm really happy to know that the memorial will be kept somewhere safe and with schools, and the elementary school would be appropriate because she taught 4th grade. So, but I just wanted to
Thank you.
Add a little personal that I did know Ruth very well.
Thank you, Beth.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think there's any, is there any, I'm going to venture to say there's no one against absolutely trying to do this right and move that. One thing just, and thank you for sharing that, I hadn't thought about this until you shared that. I think with some of the memorials, sometimes the story gets lost, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a stone. And so, I don't know, that was what year?
77.
77. she-
77,
Yeah,
right?
Memorial
So
Day.
I went to McQuon, like, did you even know the stone was there?
No.
I didn't either, right?
It's as you go in the parking lot, it's to the right.
Yeah, and so, but my point is, like, maybe there's a way to think about how within the school, I don't want to go too crazy here, but there's a way to kind of explain what the stone represents and who it represents and the story behind it, so that, as kids are seeing the stone, maybe there's something that, hey, I walk by that stone every day, so,
what's
I
the
don't know, it's just more of a thought, just listening, that, like, the story makes it so much more relevant, and then you really remember the person for who they are, opposed to just, I don't know what happened here. So absolutely all in favor, but maybe there's a way to think about kind of explaining some of the things that we have at our schools and why they're relevant to our community, so.
You bring that up, and totally off topic, but last year when we had to postpone graduation from Friday to Saturday because of the thunderstorms, people on social media were all over Dr. Jones because of that, and the lightning, and why not? And somebody came up and said, do you know where the kids graduate and what the field's named after? And, and all of a sudden it was this, whoo, oh yeah, they're doing the right thing, because somebody actually lost their life on that field due to weather, due to a lightning strike. So it's something we can think about and try to put together in a nice way as a remembrance.
The history of our community, because as we all get older, the generations after us kind of lose that context of.
I think it seems like where the stone is now is not specific to the location for any reason. It's that she was a fourth grade teacher in that
Yeah.
building. So where the fourth grade is now in Hanson belongs
like that.
appropriate.
Right.
And maybe the fourth graders are specific to do something.
Because one of the recommendations was at Hanson Town Hall, and I was like, I think there's no connection to
Should
Hanson.
follow the fourth grade
should
where
be
she
there.
That's a
taught.
great idea.
Fourth grade is the student council at Indian Head too, so you could probably talk to, I don't know, being presumptuous, but thinking about getting the kids involved in doing
Yeah.
something. And then there's that tree that got taken down, and there's like a big
Yeah.
empty space right there, like kind of around. Like, there's definitely a more open place to put it.
Well, thank you for whoever brought that to our attention.
Thank you, Rep. Cutler.
Yes.
Lisa. Just a brief personnel update. So we're in the process of looking for special education director, facilities director, and technology director. We're in the final stage. We have 2 facilities folks coming tomorrow. One as far as Alabama, flying in. He's in town now. He's staying overnight. The candidates that the team interviewed were outstanding. We had a great pool. We branched off from our normal school spring to Indeed and opened it up a little bit, and for both tech and for facilities. Tech, we have 2 folks coming in next week. And special ed, we have 3 candidates. We are going to have them come on campus, and kind of all of the candidates are going to be doing similar small walkthroughs. So special education are going to see some of our programs, facilities are going to see all our facilities, and technology are going to see the hub of technology here. So the goal is to get some folks on board within the next 2 weeks. All the candidates, the candidate pool was a real pool. We were a little anxious about special education because I've heard some horror stories, and the pool was very good. And the 3 candidates that we have as finalists, all the people that were brought in to interview were solid. We had a team of teachers and leadership interviewing, same with tech and facilities, and hope to present to some folks to you at our June meeting. So, any questions on personnel at this point? And we've also posted every position on School Spring. We have kindergarten openings, we have retirements, we have, people on maternity. We have a lot of openings out there. That doesn't mean those are all new positions. So for the community, if you saw all the positions, they're all not all new. I have 5 retirements in district. Some folks are leaving district. Some folks are taking the years off. We do have a couple of new. The kindergarten positions are new. But again, the pool is pretty broad, and we got out ahead of the game. And the principals will be doing some interviews and some hiring in the next month, so they're going to be very busy. Questions?
Were the other retirements ones you anticipated?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on the music positions? Because I did have a parent come and say, oh, hiring 3.
So yes. So remember I had mentioned, Mr. Legg and Mr. Dondera are retiring. So we did a 3 for 2. They're both retiring, taking both their salaries combined. I'm able to hire 2 high school music teachers. We haven't had 2 here before, full-time. Devin and Devin actually split time. So Don was here by himself. We will have 2 here, and we are going to split a 50-50 in the middle school, which will include band, 5th grade band. So yeah, because of their retirements, we are expanding our program.
How would that work, fifth grade band, so Duval and Conley have fifth grade?
Yes.
And then sixth through eighth at Whitman Middle,
Yes.
right? Okay.
So we have somebody doing, I think the Duval music teacher is doing the fifth grade band right now. And I think we're trying to deviate from that and have this person do it as well. It will be some traveling on their part.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's a bit of-
But that's going to be part of that interview process with that person. But we think it's very important that they're at the middle, but because there's a fifth grade at Hanson Middle, the fifth graders at Duval and Conley have that same opportunity, correct?
Yeah, we just have to work out the schedule of that person. So when we say middle school, that's to include starting band at grade 5.
Yeah.
So there will be some movement of when that happens due to the different schedules of the different schools. But that's the goal.
Good. Anything else? George, you can hang up there for summer programs.
Sure.
Please.
So summer program update for the first time. We now, it's on the district website. If you look on the district website, on the homepage, you go down the left under news, and now we have a district summer program update. The ones that have publicized, the ones that have put out the link, we've asked every principal to talk to both Lori and Michelle who handle our website, so now you can go right to it. There will be more that are coming. You do notice that we have money available for transportation. As of yet, we don't have transportation because we don't have drivers. As of this week, we're short 4 drivers, so you've probably all got the emails this week that we have to combine routes and things like that. So our goal is to hopefully get 2 to 3 routes, so that 2 to 3 drivers, so we can have a couple of routes during the course of the day so we can provide it to students. All of the athletic camps also have their link on there, so our goal is to have one-stop shopping for parents. They go to that page and it'll be there. We do know that something like the science camp is already publicized. It's not on there yet. That's because we're waiting for Mr. Rosen to send it to us so that we can put it on the link and expand it from there. I will say at the urging of this committee, it's a long time coming for that, and I will say that Mr. Tranters even has the scan code or whatever that you put right on it. It takes you to the link right there, and you can, so we're coming a long way. We're coming a long way. At the elementary school, the biggest one is Camp Conley, and that's going to feed all 3 schools. We're posting for those positions now. The camp can be as big as the people they take in and the staff that works it. And we do also have summer components available for academic enrichment, but those might not necessarily, those would probably be by invite based on our 3rd assessment, and we haven't got there yet. So it's coming, it's growing, and we'll go from there.
So families anywhere in the district can go to Camp Conley, though,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
Right.
And then
Why?
according to the principals, Dr. Jones and, Dr. Jocelyn and Dr. Foley, they are also heavily promoting it at their schools.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, George. Just a graduation update. So graduation is going to be June 2nd. Or excuse me, 2 graduations for you guys. So CES graduation is in the library on June 2nd at 5:30. We'd like you here by 5:30 if you want to march and be on stage for the CES graduation. On Friday, June 3rd, is the high school graduation, 6 p.m. The rain date is noon the next day. Let us know, let Michelle know if you want to participate.
They have the invitation letter.
You have an invitation, okay, all right. So I'm just reading off of that as a reminder, okay? So you have a green flyer for your car, where to park. It's gonna be outside, second year that we're gonna be outside. You can be on stage, you can be up on the platform, you'll march in with the graduates. We do have school committee members issuing diplomas, we do. Michelle, do you know who's, is any current school committee member?
No, I'm not going to.
You're not?
no.
Okay.
Jaden decided he would
Okay.
like to be.
But I think,
Oh, no.
do we have, what's his name, Jim?
Mr. Hagerty,
Yes.
former school committee member, I believe is the diploma to his grade.
Okay. So let us know if you're going to be there. We'd love to have you there. It's a great, graduation's outstanding. It's the best day of the year, both nights, the CES night and the high school night. Are just the kids are just happy, parents are happy. It's just it's a great experience. So I encourage you to be there. And then like I said, you have a parking spot, in and out. And again, I encourage you to go, to come out and see it. And hopefully the weather will be nice on Friday night. We won't have to postpone again, but and it won't be too hot, and it'll be nice when the sun goes down. But please, if you can make it, that would be a great representation of this committee.
Yeah, the only thing I just wanted to bring up to the committee, because this was something that, came up last year, I noticed, and then I talked to Jeff about, and I kind of wanted to share with the committee. So traditionally, the chair, and Chris and I talked about this too, so traditionally, the chair and vice chair are the ones handing out the diplomas. That's kind of been the long-standing tradition here at Whitman Hanson. But one of the things, I kind of asked the question of like, why do we do that? And Jeff's answer was, it's because we just always done it that way. I said, well, I remember when I graduated from Whitman Hanson and the chair of the school committee, in a roundabout way, who actually ended up working for, but at the time I was like, why is this guy handing me my diploma, right? So I did suggest to Jeff, I said, to me, it would maybe make more sense to have, whether it's Dr. Jones, the class advisors, a combination, whatever the administration thinks, to do that. I know Chris was in support of that. We would ultimately be the two this year that we're doing that, but wanted to kind of propose that to the committee just to see if that was acceptable. I don't think we need to vote it. Certainly it can change from year to year, but for this year, that was kind of what we were thinking. So I want to kind of open that up to the committee just to get thoughts. So is everyone okay with that? Does anyone feel strongly it should be school committee members that are doing it? Are we okay? Everyone's okay? All right, good. So
Yeah, thanks.
We'll kind of set that as a new tradition. We'll see how it goes. Again, the school committee can do whatever they want in the future, but again, I go back to my personal experience and like, why handing me my diploma? Who are you?
Who are you?
Like, why are you even here? So I just think, hopefully at this point, they know Dr. Jones, they know their class advisors, it's Shelley,
So,
Jeff, whoever wants.
Chris and I are going to do it this year, and then
Jeff,
we're going
how
to
are you doing?
reevaluate as we go
Perfect.
forward.
Perfect.
He and I kind of, after Chris mentioned that to me again, we kind of brainstormed a few different things. We want it to be a personal experience for the kids, and that's what it's about. Again, I said it was the best day of the year, but we wanted to personalize it for the students. We're going to roll it out this year. I think they still know me. I see the kids
As
in the
well,
hall.
yes.
In 5 years, they might not, but going forward, we're going to establish something now that it's kind of away from the committee to have the students own that somewhat. So I think it's a really good,
Great.
It's a really good move. And thank you. My evaluation, just key dates, everything's going to be uploaded to the Google Drive as far as my evidence tomorrow by the end of the day. I was putting some things in, I just wanted to make sure it was there, and we're going to upload it to the Google Drive. There are folders, there are marked folders, there's my, I want to say more of a summative of what I think, where I've hit this year on goals, but there's a lot of other things that are outside the goals, just things around community involvement, things like that. If you have any questions, give me a call, come in and see me. Chris and Michelle would like the evaluations, the first 2 pages of the evaluations, the whole document, which includes a rubric and more or less of a worksheet, are in there, but just submit the first 2 pages to Chris. I think that'll give him the opportunity to kind of score it out, see where it's at. All your documents can come in, but he's going to look at the first 2 pages.
Yep.
And again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Yeah, Chris.
5:30, Chris?
Yeah, what date did we say?
June 1st.
By June 1st?
Yes.
Because we're meeting again on the,
We're going to reorg on the 23rd, Michelle?
yeah, but when is the June meeting?
June 8th.
June 8th, perfect, yes.
gives
So
you
if
a
we get
full
him in
week.
by the 1st, that gives us a week.
Yes, it gives you a week.
Between Michelle and I will organize it, and then again, what I would do, or actually it might be whoever the chair would do, or somebody needs to do, or I'll do it this year, whatever. Would just be to pull in the scores.
Thank you.
And then we share those, and then everyone has an opportunity, if they want to share anything publicly, they can share it publicly. But you don't have to, but that kind of seemed to work better than, I didn't think, I don't want to read your evaluations word for word, or, so we can do the scores, it's really easy to put in an Excel sheet, we can hand it out, it can be publicly available. So that's the plan. So yes, by June 1st, please, if you could email it to both Michelle and I, and then we'll make sure that she has them for records and I do the tabulation.
And feel free, once you look in the drive and you see, if you have a question, call me up or come on and see me. We'll talk about that. So thank you.
Don't forget to make a copy of the document either.
Yes, right, remember?
It's in the drive.
Yes, don't save it to the drive, because then everyone's going to get your evaluation.
We're all going to be there.
So save your own copy down to your computer, email it out. If you want to handwrite it, just make it legible, please, and we're good to go.
Thank you. John, budget stuff? please. It's so quiet when there's nobody in the...
Thank you. I'll try to move quickly. It's a lot of documents, but again, I'll try to go as quickly as I can.
John, speak up too.
Okay,
Mike's there, but
they're not-
articulate.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you. So the first document is document number 1. It's the fiscal year 22 report through April of both revenue and expenditures. On page 1, down in the year-to-date actual column, it says that we've had...
In your folder. This one right here. The separate, not in the packet, it's in a separate folder.
Thank you.
Thanks. I didn't figure that out either.
The year-to-date actuals are 52 million, again, I'm going to round the numbers up, 52,029,000. As you can see, we've received all the assessment money that we had assessed up until where it says Hanson Capital Building. One thing to note that on this, on page 1 here is where it says interfund transfers in, and it's 337,000. 245,598.29 came from a CARES Act submission that we got in back in December, and we're able to get in with the town of Hanson, and they were able to send that on to the county, and we were able to get that money in. We got that money in April, so that's in that 337 right there. So I just want to say thank you to the town administrator, Lisa Green, and to Todd Hassett, the town accountant. They did a great job in turning that around quickly and getting that money to us.
So on that note, John, just to interrupt, that was, I think I mentioned to you folks, Rep. Cutler called me on the 27th of December and said, hey, look, Hanson still has money available. Do you have any receipts that we can put in? I called John, and our office turned it over right to Todd and Lisa, who turned it over it was due on the 31st. So we didn't turn any money back from the town of Hanson to the Fed. Which was a good thing. So if not for Josh, if not for Lisa, if not for John, that would have went away. But because we had been told, things were exhausted through CARES, Josh was able to see some things, and it's a benefit to the district. So just wanted to give him a plug as well.
Can I just ask a question about that?
Yep.
So those funds come in, 337,000, and they go against qualified expenses that we had. So that money gets applied to those expenses, and then it basically like frees up the money we would have paid for those expenses, right? So those expense lines further in this report would actually have, not a surplus, but there would just be a balance left over at the end of the year. Is that right?
These expenses were fiscal year 21 expenses that we paid out of the general fund. And I didn't know that this money was available, so I didn't set it aside in the Special Revenue CARES Act fund. So it was paid in fiscal year 21 out of general fund money. So when we got it in fiscal year 22, because the last minute maneuver on December 28th. So because it was fiscal year 21's general fund expenses, and we've closed fiscal year 21, any revenue we get in afterwards has to go to the general fund. It's just general miscellaneous revenue.
Okay. So ideally, that's simply going to roll into free cash?
Yes.
That's what happens with that? It just-
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's
Just
what
trying to
we're
understand.
anticipating.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'm sorry, did you say a portion of that 337 was the CARES, or was it the whole thing?
So 245,000 of the 337 you see in interfund transfers in are related to this December 28th submission.
Okay. Gotcha.
And there are other things that have been transferred in that add up for the difference.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And then pages 2 through 18 are the expenditures report for the general fund through April. And again, the back page is we've spent $44,182,000 of expenses through April on $52 million in revenue. So again, this is just a snapshot in time. We've talked about that before. I want to try to move quickly, so if anyone doesn't have any questions, I'll move on to a new document that you haven't seen before, and this is document 1A, and this is for the Whitman Middle School feasibility study. It's its own fund in our munis system, so I'm tracking the funding source for this project and the fund, and what I'm thinking is, we've got this fantastic Munis system, why not use it instead of me having to do spreadsheets over and over and over again? So I put this into Munis. This is going to be a new report, a new monthly report, and this just happens to be the Whitman Middle School feasibility study, where the money's coming in for revenue and where the expenses are so far. And so far, they've spent $20,603.60 out of the $850,000 that's been allotted by Whitman Town Meeting. So that's just a new report there. Again, document 1B is just a breakdown of the Whitman Middle School feasibility study. Even though I said I wasn't going to do any more spreadsheets, there's one more spreadsheet of where they are. And just, it's just a reiteration of what you saw on document 1A. It's just breaking it down, what everything's been spent on, including the vendor name. It says more detail than what is in the Munis system. Again, documents 2 and 2A, these are the things that I usually go over only on the quarters, but these, I'm doing them every month, just so you can get a look at a comparison between fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22 through April. Again, this is what the balance sheet and revenues and expenditures would look like on document 2. If the fiscal year ended in April, obviously it doesn't, but it's a helpful tool to see where we are versus last year. Document 2A is a breakdown of all the expenses by DESI code, by function. Again, comparing fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 22 through April. The highlighted items are the items that make up most of the each function's code and increase or decrease, and they haven't changed pretty much since I started doing this report, and when it seems like a while ago, but I think it was maybe October or November. That's just a breakdown of where the expenses were, and then through April. And then document 2B is, again, this is something I go over on the quarters.
Hey, John.
But, I'm sorry.
Sorry, back to 2A.
Yes.
Just a quick question on, towards the bottom, on the left column, 5150, employee separation costs. So in my head, I think that sometimes that's when we encourage early retirement or we have layoffs or costs. So can you go over maybe why that's increased by 184,000? Do you happen to know?
I can,
That's a lot to ask.
I can look into it, but it has been up over last year, and I think it's just a timing of when we've paid out what separation costs to employees. But I can certainly look into it and find out why.
Okay. Yeah, because I just know we didn't lay anyone off last year, but,
Separation costs can be like sick leave buyback and things like that.
Okay.
To people who are leaving.
okay,
So anything like that would be
Yeah.
separation costs.
yeah.
All set? Okay.
Yeah.
Then document 2B, again, we go over it on the quarters, but this is what it looks like. This is every fund and the beginning balance, the revenues, transfers in and out, and expenditures in every fund, not other than the general fund. So everything that we were just talking about earlier is related to the general fund, and these are every other fund that the district has. I remember I went over the quarterly reports last month and forgot to talk about circuit breaker. It's a big deal, and I didn't talk about it. So just very quickly, I want to point out that circuit breaker is fund number 4400. It's about a little bit more than halfway down on the page 1. And right now we started the year with 1.3 million. Again, I'm rounding the numbers off. Revenues through April are 1.29 million, and expenditures so far are 984,000 for an ending balance through April of 1.6 million. Again, I'm rounding the numbers off. So I forgot to talk about that last time. I want to make sure that I do this time. Document 3, document 3A, document 4.
John, just back up. So,
Sure.
Go back to document 2B,
Yes.
4508 malicious fund. I forgot I was going to actually email you that. So that was malicious fund 4508.
Miscellaneous?
Oh, miscellaneous fund, yes.
What would that be?
That's a very good question. The auditors in their management letter said that we should close that fund because that fund should not exist. So I
we
have
should-
not,
Okay.
It is a legacy fund from when and things have been put in it over the course of the last few years, since 2013. I'm going to close that out and at the end of the year, and that we won't have that fund anymore. That was one of the you hit right on exactly what one of the auditors said, is that, you know, they looked into that fund and said, what is that fund, and it should be closed because it doesn't serve a proper purpose.
Thank you.
I'm going to do that. I haven't done it yet. I hadn't done it through April. I'm halfway through it right now, so you'll probably see it by the when you see the May's report.
Thank you.
'Cause I'll have it done by the end of the month. Okay, so documents 3, 3A, 4, 4A. I've been talking about this every month, that line item transfers that would be needed, and I think the last time I was here, at the last meeting, I was talking about how we're going to split up the idea of the end of the year transfers being SPED costs, SPED budget money being transferred to other SPED costs, special education, and regular day costs going to other regular day expenses and salaries. So to try to keep special education with special education if possible, and regular day costs and transfers with regular day. So documents 3 and 3A would be if the year ended today and we needed to do transfers at this meeting in order to close the books. This is what the transfers that we would need. Again, document 3 is what the transfer would be that you would be voting on. Document 3A is my extrapolation out to the end of the year as of 5/5 of what we'll spend in special education costs. And then similarly in documents 4 and 4A, those are the regular day expenses. Document 4 is what the transfers in and out would be if the year ended today and we had to do transfers. It goes on for a while, as you can see. It's 6 pages and then 9 pages. And then 4A is my extrapolation out of every cost through the end of the year with regular day expenses. There is a negative amount. There is no negative amount right now on the special education costs. There is a negative amount in the transfers on document 4 on the last page. And that's something that I'm going to be working on, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. We'll be able to transfer by working on money that's encumbered by departments. We should be able to find the deficit that it looks like we have right now. So I think we're okay with that. If we're not, you'll know at the next meeting as soon as I know, but I don't think it's a problem. Document 5, and just moving on to the state aid update for fiscal year 23. We passed the budget, or you passed the budget, I'm sorry. And then the House Ways and Means came out with a budget proposal, so that's document 5 is the column that shows their proposal. And then document 5A is my analysis of the proposal. And you can see the governor's budget amount on document 5A, and then the House budget amount. And then under, where we are versus last year on the top part of document 5A, the bottom of document 5A is where we are versus the approved budget that was voted at town meeting in both Whitman and Hanson back on May 2nd. The highlighted part on document 5A in the middle on the regional transportation, it looks like we're getting less, but if you remember, we changed the method of getting regional transportation reimbursement, and the state hasn't processed that yet, so they have the old way of doing it. So if you were to use our new number with the transport change, right now I put it on the bottom right of document 5A, we would be getting $152,718 more in state aid than what was approved in the budget back on May 2nd. And document 5 just is a reiteration of that from the DLS, the Division of Local Services.
So just to clarify, so on that 5A sheet where it shows the regional transportation and the House budget amount, so you saying the 861 just doesn't reflect our change in methodology?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because when I saw this, I was like, wait, did the House change the reimbursement rate or something?
No, they haven't.
Okay, good. Made me feel much better, because that's what I thought you were going to say, and I was concerned. And when, from a budgeting timeline, remind me, I'm not as close to this, I know some folks follow this religiously, but do we have, when is that typically, is there a statutory requirement in terms of the date that it has to be voted and finalized?
The budget, the
Yeah.
state budget?
Yeah.
They're technically supposed to have it done by June 30th, but it's
Okay.
gone past that in the past.
Okay.
Right now, the Senate is debating their version of the budget. The House, and once the Senate passes their budget, the House and the Senate will get together in a conference committee, and they'll work out the differences. And then once that happens, then they'll submit the final budget to the governor. The governor has the 10 days to veto anything that he doesn't like. And then they have, I don't know how many days, I think it's 10 days to override that veto. So it could be a long time.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
usually June, July. It's been later than that. It's been not often, is it earlier than that?
Okay, thank you.
I
Sorry.
did see today, I think, whether it's a Senate proposed budget, increase that minimum per pupil that we're eligible for from the 30 to 60.
Oh, that'd be good.
Really?
Wow.
Whether that
That's coming from the Senate.
stands, Senate.
That is in the House budget's number, in Chapter 70 on Document 5 of 25 million. They did increase it from 30 to 60.
Yeah,
Oh, so the House,
But it's-
that would be the House
upped it
and the Senate.
Senate is
Oh, okay.
talking about matching it. I'm sorry.
yeah,
So then the governor just needs to get on board and we'll be all set.
which is an extra 100,000 to us, basically.
You know,
Yeah,
Goes from 100 to 200,000.
We'll take it, we'll take every little bit.
that's
we
right,
can get.
that'll work.
Great. Any other questions on that one? Nope. All right.
Okay.
John, you can just continue on if you
Keep
want.
going.
right
Okay.
about the phones.
Document 6, the district is going to be putting out a bond anticipation note on May 26th for $500,000 related to the Hanson Middle School feasibility study. I've been working with David Leary, our treasurer, and then our financial advisor, Lynn Foster Welsh. And what we did here was we put the $500,000 that the middle school feasibility study needed, and there's also a $210,000 Hanson HVAC bond anticipation note that we're going to be reissuing again. We combine them together so that we have one issue. We'll have, less costs, and sometimes when you have a larger bond issue amount, it attracts more people, not always, but sometimes more bidders. So we're just trying to combine two things so we don't have two separate issues with two separate costs that are related to it. So that's,
And just to clarify that point, John, so, and that makes perfect sense to me, but from a financial impact, the net objective is to bring down the borrowing cost. So we wouldn't, so for example, if by combining that, where that was to change the borrowing cost to Hanson up significantly, then we'd probably just leave it as is and do just the middle school, or does that make sense?
it will be cheaper to combine the two.
Perfect, so that's an absolute. So there's no way that like Hanson's portion goes up by doing this. It absolutely, great. Thank you.
The financial advisor gets paid per issue.
Correct.
So if we have one issue, it's.
Excellent. Thank you.
I have a question on that.
yep.
Just going back to page 1 of document 1, it relates to this. The Hanson Capitol Building, what is that? 140,000 line for? It's not the high school, because there's Hanson High School, Whitman High School, and then Hanson Capitol Building.
So that's the HVAC for the Hanson Middle School. And
Okay, so is that the same thing being rolled into this?
that's the same project being rolled, yes. But on page 1, where it says $140,000 for the budget and $5,000 year-to-date, when we get, Hanson's paying off some of the bond anticipation note early. It's going to be $210,000. I think when the budget was made, I think they thought it was going to be $115,000, so that's why the budget is there. But when you pay off bond anticipation notes earlier, it's not a general fund revenue. We're paying off a debt, and that's a capital project revenue. So it won't go here. That number won't change, and we'll be $134,000 at the end of the year under budget in that line item. Because when we get the $210,000 from Hanson in June to pay off and pay down the bond anticipation note, it'll go into the capital projects fund and not the general fund.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, I'm just not sure how to form my question. It looks to me like that's the total amount owed. If that's in our budget, right? The total 56,797,000. Does Hanson not owe that full amount, 140,000? Or just,
When last year's budgeting was going on, that 115,000 bond anticipation note was counted as a general fund revenue, but it isn't one. It's similar to the transfer from circuit breaker down below, further down on page 1. But there's a budget of $600,000 there, but that's transfers to circuit breaker, not general fund revenue.
okay. And it's being rolled in together with Whitman Middle School feasibility?
Yes.
Is that okay with MSBA and so forth? Because one is separate from the other. I understand we're a district and we can probably borrow in lump sum, right?
Yes,
But
it
you-
is.
You can roll them
We
together?
can do this, yes.
Okay. And I imagine the payments are allocated? Is-
It'll be allocated out as,
Split out.
the percentage of 500,000 divided by 710 will be, and the 210 divided by 700,000. That's where the things will be divided out by me.
Okay, thanks.
Then, that was page 6. So I'm sorry, real quickly, so the sale is going to be on May 26th with the bond starting on June 10th. And this is just the form from our financial advisor. And then finally, document 7 is the fiscal year 23 budget, the way it was voted. And this is it. This is what we're going to be working off for fiscal year 23. That's it.
Good.
Try to move it quickly.
Yep, if you want to move right into the phones, please. The phone system material is in your packet, not in your sheet.
We have a bunch of stuff here.
All right.
There we go.
And
This one.
New
this
handout,
one,
sorry.
New hand, it was a separate handout.
This one.
Yes, all of the above.
Yes.
All of the above.
So there should be a breakdown of
Yep.
articles that were voted, as well as what the winning bidder came up with, in base bid and alternate. Kind of looks like this. It does look like this. And then also just my notes or a narrative of what happened with the project. Again, my narrative is right from Chapter 5 of Chapter 30B, so it is right from the book. There's different steps that you have to take in order to do a request for proposal, and I can read them to you if you want. But what we did with the phone project is we had a great team of preparing the RFP with Steve Burke, Ernie, he's our director, Associate Technology Director, Ernie Sandland, Director of Facilities, Kevin Solomons, our desktop administrator, and we were led by Assistant Superintendent George Farrow. Mr. Farrow convened several meetings and set timeline goals of what we're going to be doing here. And we got the RFP ready as per Mr. Farrow's instructions in early February. The RFP was advertised in the Patriot Ledger, State Combi's procurement system, in the Massachusetts Secretary of State's Goods and Services Bulletin, and on the district website. You're able to download the request for proposal or RFP in early February. We had a walkthrough during February vacation, which was somewhat challenging because we had a power outage right when the walkthrough was ready to begin. We were able to work through that. I issued 5 addenda and answered 64 questions in writing related to the project. We had a non-price proposal. The way you do when you have a request for proposal under Chapter 30B, you have non-price proposals and you have price proposals. You evaluate them separately. You evaluate the non-price proposals first, and then you evaluate the price proposal afterwards, completely separate. Then you come together and you get the best advantageous proposal of both non-price and price proposals. I used proposal there probably 20 times in that paragraph, I'm sorry. But we had a non-price proposal evaluation team, and then we had a price proposal evaluation team of my assistant, Erica Sherman. She's our staff accountant. I was there facilitating what was going on with the meeting. And in both meetings and coming up with the proposals. The deadline for the project was March 22nd. We got 5 proposals. I opened them and we evaluated the proposals, and we selected the most advantageous proposal, 3 most advantageous proposals, and had those come back for a second interview. We did that on March 29th. April 1st, the members of the team unanimously voted to select Integration Partners Incorporated as the most advantageous proposal based on qualifications and price. And since April 1st, and with the town meeting, and this got kind of delayed a little bit, but we had contract language and worked out the statement of work, and we had district council review the contract and suggested edits. We tried to work that in, and that's what you're looking at tonight. So down to step 12 right now in the process. If you chose to, you could authorize me to award the contract to Integration Partners Incorporated, and the amount would be the base bid of $266,477.18. The alternate bids totaled $61,601.30. So the entire bid would be $328,078.48. And just for the record, we have $353,598 in votes from both Whitman and Hanson. So the difference is a contingency of about $25,000, rounding the numbers off. If you were to vote that to authorize me to award the contract tonight, we would execute it tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Motion to authorize the business manager to award this contract, in the amount of $328,078.40.
I'll second that.
And that's the amount you want, not the contingency amount?
No, that's the
Great,
correct amount.
fantastic. Any discussion, questions? So did we talk about this at Facilities Subcommittee throughout? Yes?
The whole phone project throughout,
Right.
for 2 years.
Right, I'm trying to articulate to the public.
For
like,
2
this wasn't
years, we've
like-
been talking about this phone project in facilities.
And we went over this today on the bidding process.
Great.
We didn't use the phones, though, to talk.
Okay, any questions from anyone on the phone system before we move to the vote? Everyone's generally okay. This is an on-prem system, right? So this would be like a server-based on-premises system?
Yes.
Okay, got it. I think the only other question I wanted to ask was, because I don't know how this works in municipal land, so how does the expense translate over time? So, like, I know on our side, we'll, like, depreciate, capitalize, it would be a capitalized item where we would depreciate kind of the value over time. Does that apply here or not really? Do we just take this as a one-time expense, or do we kind of depreciate the value of the system over time?
It'll be on our fixed asset list as
Great.
we add components. So it's based on spending. So if we spend nothing at the end of fiscal year 22, it will not be on our list. If we spend the entire amount, 328 will be on fiscal year 23's fixed asset.
And then how long do you depreciate the fixed asset over, do you know?
Phone projects, I believe, are 20 years. I'd have to look again.
Okay, so that's the only, and that was kind of the answer I expected. So I would want to look at that just, I don't know, maybe we'll get 20 years out of it, but I don't know, like some of these phone systems, realistically, it might only be like 10. So just not having an asset out there, so it's like, well, it's got to last 20 years because we have the asset out there for 20 years opposed to now it's only 10 and we have that mismatch of fixed assets. So that would be the only thing maybe to just look at, just to make sure that, I guess I'd defer to like George and the team of you guys to make sure that whatever we say it's going to last is a reasonable expectation, not, we're shooting for the system's going to last 20 years and then 10 years from now we're like, oops, it's time, because these systems just don't. 10 years would be great to me. I mean, this one's probably, how long we got out of this one, so.
A long time.
Yeah, okay, great.
Well, isn't it based on technology? I mean, you don't know how
It
it's
is.
going to change, right?
It
8 to
is.
10 years?
But I think you're technically buying like licenses and support, so some of that would last for a period of time.
I think this is the system we've had since George was here, and George has been here a long time. So,
So this is an integrated system that we're buying that does harness what we have already, and then it's not a VoIP, it's not anything like that. And the high school is the brain, if you think of it, and then the schools are the tentacles. So that's the type of system that we are buying. And the expectation is that we are at 20, I believe we're at 24 years right now, and we are out of we can't even sell these phones. So you said that we could get rid of them in a couple of meetings ago.
Yeah.
And, so that's the expectation, that it would last hopefully upwards of 20 years.
Awesome. Any other discussion? All right, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor? Unanimous. Great. Thank you.
New business, we just need the annual appointment of the physician. Dr. Belcher agreed to be our physician, if so appointed tonight. So I'm looking for a motion and a vote to approve Dr. Belcher as our school physician. District.
Motion to appoint.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Great, unanimous.
At our last meeting, policy subcommittee, we pushed forth to the school committee the payment policy for school breakfast and lunch, policy EFDA. I didn't realize we didn't put it on for a vote. This puts us in compliance with federal guidelines, where we don't, it's written, it's well written. If you want to read it over, or if you want me to go over specifics, policy subcommittee agreed to that. I think we would have voted on it if we could have last meeting, but I'm just looking for a motion to vote to approve policy EFDA.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion on the policy? Great, all those in favor? Unanimous again.
And then lastly, wrapping up, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Jones for 6 years of committed service to the students of the Whitman Hanson Regional School District. Sad to see you go, but it was a pleasure working with you as a facilities chair in the negotiations. You got a lot done in 6 years, Mike, so as a former principal, now as a superintendent, I just really appreciate your service, and I speak on behalf of the entire district. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I still think you're too young to retire, but
He said he's going to be involved in everything else Hanson now. So thanks, Mike. We also have elections coming up on the 21st in both communities, and we will have a reorganization meeting for this committee on Monday, the 23rd, 6:30, if that's okay with members of the committee right now. So 6:30 on the 23rd will be our annual reorg meeting, the day after, or 2 days after the elections in both communities.
and that's typically the only item on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Subcommittees? There you go.
Subcommittees, yeah, anything further on middle school building?
Do you guys, Beth or Chris, do you want to speak on the building project, where we're at?
Sure. So the other day, George, myself, and Lincoln were on Zoom with MSBA, and we interviewed the three, AI3, LaValle, and Studio G. They made presentations. Right after that, we voted. It came down to a tie between AI3 and Studio G, so we had to revote taking out LaValle, and AI3 was decided to be the winner. So AI3 will be the new designers for the Whitman Middle School, and so we got the contract at building meeting yesterday, but they had just Colliers had just received the contract information from AI3. So the committee had decided, the building committee had decided it wasn't enough time to vote to accept the contract. So we're meeting next week to vote on it, because our timeline wants to be the 18th to be it finalized and signed, so that we can move forward. So hopefully, next Tuesday, the contract will be accepted with their bid, and we'll go from there. They came in on budget. One alternative was a little over by $12,000, but Collier said that was well within
The budget.
well within, because the Collier's budget is under, so what it was going to be. So, which is a great thing, you know, money saved.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but AI3 was the designer for this building.
Yes, they were, and yes, and one of the same gentlemen did the presentation, so it was excellently done. Looks like it's going to be really interesting. They had a lot of ideas about integrating the wetlands for science and things, so
So members of the
Got plenty
community
of
come.
those.
I think that's, I mean, we've talked a little bit about the members of the community. This is going to start the process. As we start to design, that's where we're going to be actively engaging people in our communities to say, what are you looking for? What do you want? This is the project as it rolls out. We're getting into the nuts and bolts now. A lot of that was the behind the scenes OPM, architect. Now it's going to be how we're going to put this together educationally and through the
Yeah,
facility.
the feasibility is first, and that determines basically, do we renovate or do we build new? So, and, you know, they'll cost that out, and I think hopefully that'll be a quick decision on what that needs to be. I think, you know, the district knows, let's hope they get it, the MSBA. So, that's where we are.
Great.
Facilities.
Facilities, anything?
I think you pretty much touched on everything today, except for there was the one issue of the Whitman Middle School mold. It didn't end up on the town meeting floor. I don't know if you want to.
So we as a committee put forth all of these articles to the town of Whitman, including the mold remediation costs from November 2021. When I received the warrant, that was excluded from the warrant. I did speak to the capital committee. Ernie and I did present everything. Two members of the capital committee questioned why this was on the capital committee meeting. But then both those members, if you watch the video, said this should be on the warrant as a expense for the town of Whitman for that remediation. My recommendation or suggestion to the facility subcommittee through the school committee is that I will go to the Board of Selectmen and ask with the thought process of this being excluded. Nothing in either community as far as an emergency expense or something similar to this has ever not made it to the town warrant, and then bring that explanation back to the committee so that it's transparent between both. If any members, I will ask Lincoln to put me on the agenda regarding this and then see where we're at. I know Lincoln and I had gone back and forth a little bit about this being a maintenance expense versus a emergency expense. We have documentation from the past that this was a emergency expense. And I would just like to hear from the selectmen where we're at. I'm fully in favor of this being an expense from the town for the Whitman Middle School. Discussion in facilities was, well, would people in Whitman be paying for the refinished floor in Hanson, or a boiler in Hanson, or something like that? So I think we're in semantics as far as language. One of the things we're going to have to do, since we have the budget passed, is the regional agreement, because there's language in that regional agreement that is being interpreted in a couple of different ways. So again, through this committee, I would ask that, I'm going to, ask Mr. Heineman to put me on the agenda with selectmen just to get an answer, and then bring that back to our committee and see where we're at, because it has not been paid for.
Yeah, Mike?
Just to agree with what Jeff said, but then also, there wasn't a maintenance issue. Like, our maintenance people don't go around and remediate mold on a regular basis. Once it was spotted where it was crawling in, the same spot it had crawled in, several years before, it was found, we found a contractor, we let people know what was going on. We did it over Thanksgiving break, and it was done off of lifts and staging. That's not something our maintenance people do. And once it was found, it was taken care of. And I'm just surprised they would think that anything differently.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris?
Just a reminder of the amount of that.
54,000 something and change.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I would encourage, because, and I know there was a little bit of discussion about this a while back, I think making sure that we're clear on what the regional agreement says. So for example, like, I get capital, right? Okay, maybe, so technically I can see how it's not a capital expense, because it's not we're not making a building and we don't have a phone system we're gonna depreciate over 20 years. So technically I can see that, but it does seem like if you look at the regional agreement, it definitely falls into an extraordinary expense, or whatever that language is. And then the only other thing I would suggest is, because you and I talked about this a while back, and you gave me a packet of the history of this issue, which also showed that there was clear outreach around, at the end of the day, we need to do something with the roof, and that wasn't done, and then we had a mold issue. So we can't control some of that. So I think what I would say is absolutely you should ask, but I would also encourage you to share that
Packet.
folder that was about this thick that showed the whole history of the issue and what was happened and what did happen and what didn't happen, and the regional agreement, and then hopefully we just move pass this one, rather than getting attorneys involved.
So I'll let you folks know where we're at. I'll talk to Lincoln this week.
Great.
And get them that information.
Budget, so we met yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Back to facilities,
Yes.
one question. Did I read somewhere some facilities plans on the library here? Is there any information you can share?
So Dr. Jones presented to Facilities Subcommittee. He would, or through us, we've talked about this, making the library, and he's going to present in June to you folks, making the library a different working space for students, more modernized right now. And I don't want to take away from his presentation because it was very eloquent. But we don't utilize this library the way we could, that it was probably utilized back in 2005. The books are becoming more obsolete. Kids aren't reading encyclopedias that we still have right around the room. And after touring some pretty newer libraries, making this a real flexible learning space that we can have multiple classrooms in here and have this be the hub of the district again. So he presented to facilities tonight. He will present on June 8th to the school committee.
Okay.
Could that be a model, maybe, for the other schools?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, he's
Well, it
got some
almost
really
sounds
good
like
ideas.
there's other models that are out there.
Yeah,
Right.
he's got some really good ideas, and I think this would be there's just so much dead space with those books right now. The librarian right now is retiring, and her task this year was to weed books that have never been used or are outdated. And now that we have one-to-one spaces that students can come in here and open up their laptop or their Chromebook and do work, and we don't have that space. We look here, there's not a lot of seating for kids.
Yeah.
We had AP testing in the way back today, and we could do better.
Yeah,
So
it's not
his
flexible
It's not
seating
flexible
either.
seating, no.
Yeah.
And these books are stationary right now,
Yeah.
so.
And how about funding source for any?
We'll throw all that out in June. We're trying to do it within our current numbers right now.
Okay. In like facilities, maintenance line?
Correct, correct. We're not looking for anything extraordinary. I told Chris, we don't have a lot of money, but we do,
But furniture,
for, these things, and the one thing he wants to keep is the architecture of the building and utilize the furniture that we currently have as best we can. So again, he's got a great presentation. I don't want to take that away from him. And it'll
stealing
be-
his thunder already.
Right. So up and coming, but thanks for that question.
Budget Subcommittee, we met last night, had a good meeting. I think there's a number of things that we would like to work on over the course of the summer, but we also recognize that we have to kind of reorganize and do that stuff as well. So the one thing we did really want to focus on is kind of getting a more current kind of version of the 5-year plan. So we did have some discussion with John and Jeff about them spending a little bit more time on the expense side, just to make sure that they felt comfortable. I think in the conversation that we had last night, looking at some of those expense lines, we were trying to make more of the assessment numbers fit. And the budget subcommittee's encouragement was, let's figure out what we need and then see how that translates. So they're going to be working on that over the next week and a half or so. And then just because of time and giving them some time and all that's going on, we did schedule a meeting for Tuesday, May 31st. So just in the spirit of full transparency and making sure everyone's okay with it, what we'd like to do is have that meeting with the 3 of us that have been working on it as kind of at least the final iteration before we actually reorganize the subcommittee. So we do the reorganization meeting on the 23rd. This meeting is set for the 31st. We would plan on still, even if we don't populate other subcommittees and the like, meet to try and get this done so that we can then bring it back to the full school committee and then we can reorganize subcommittees how we see fit at a later date. So just wanted to kind of explain the rationale. We ran out of time. There's just no way to kind of get this done before the 23rd. So that was the big takeaway. But we did also talk about, whoever I guess is going to be on that budget subcommittee, really focusing in on looking at hold harmless and some of that understanding that comes with it. We talked about OPEB, and what was the other one that I missed? Oh, and then the budget process itself.
Coordination between the two towns, yeah.
So kind of really defining, like, now, hey, this is our budget timeline, this is what we think of, maybe even going in front of the boards of selectmen as well as the finance committees and saying, this is what we're thinking, give us some feedback, but with the goal of way before we get into budget season, there is a document that lives somewhere that's like, this is what's going to happen. We're either going to have a joint meeting or we're not, and we're going to do this on this date, and we're going to do this on this date, and we're going to do this on this date. And the 5-year plan lives here. So we're just really codifying, I think, the information that as a group, we all felt is out there, but we need to make sure people kind of understand it so we can get away from the, hey, I didn't know, or I wasn't there, or just having it all live in a document so everyone knows in advance should hopefully get away from some of that. So, did I miss anything? That was.
You did great.
Okay.
I think you got it. There we go.
Can I add, along the lines of budget and communicating with the public, of course, I listened to a lunch and learning series with MASC, and it was about ESSER. And it was just reminding school committees to show our results and be very public with our ESSER funds. So I guess I'd be asking Budget Subcommittee in this coming year to make sure we're talking about how we're using that ESSER money, because the public knows, right? It was $2.3 million, ESSER 3, and what are we doing with it? And we have to spend it. It is one-time money. We have to spend it now, and it doesn't carry on for a long time. But you know, they talked about on the call using photos and charts and graphics and just really pumping it out there to the public so that they know how we're utilizing this money and how it's benefiting the district in a short period of time.
Right.
And then it is going away. And then those positions that are there to maybe support students, tutors, and so forth, they won't be there. Or maybe they will if we work with our towns and we communicate a timeline and we discuss the benefits of these positions, and maybe they can be, phased into an operating budget, FY24, FY25. But showing results and being very public.
Okay.
That's what I'd say.
Okay, Chris.
Chris, who's on the budget subcommittee?
So it's Steve, David, and myself.
And this is the first year you guys have had to
Yeah.
go around, right?
Yeah, so budget subcommittee, early childhood education, and what am I missing? There's the other third one.
Robust.
101.
Wow, thank you. Robust and early.
Oh, yeah, oh, that.
All right, so those were all, we created all this. So, again, I think we need to get through reorganization, and then, I would hope as a committee that first meeting we have in June, we would dedicate some time towards, okay, new year, let's figure out, are we doing some strategic planning focus? Are we, because the subcommittees came out of that, right? So if we what do we want to focus on? We can kind of build on it.
Comment and thank you guys for the work you've done and how it keeps popping up in positive ways throughout the budget process and getting us on track for a 5-year plan. All that kind of stuff is so crucial, to us being able to project, where we are, how much funding we can expect, or we can hope for, or whatever. So thank you guys for your work. It's
Thank you.
Difference.
Yes.
To feed off of what Dawn said, too, I think it's important for us to know also what's going on, because we had some new positions this year that were supposed to be helping with the data and, helping the kids and where they are after, and I thought at one point we were going to hear from them on what's going on and how it's working. If we can fit that in at some point, even if next year, and I might not be here, depends on the 21st, but to start hearing from those folks of how it's worked, how well it's worked, what do they find, what do they think they need to improve after doing it for this year. And I would really, I think that would be important for us to know, not just the town.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to know how it's working,
Right.
too.
Good. Pilgrim Area Collaborative,
Yes,
anything?
so we met last Thursday evening via Zoom. We lost one of our persons that had been there a long time. She lost re-election, I believe, at the end of April. It was the town of Kingston, so we're hoping for a new appointment coming in so that we can keep our board full. We were actually down 2 vacancies. I just can't think of what the other community was. But we're not quite at the end of the year. We're really more or less just getting ready for 2023 in many ways. We voted the Pilgrim Area Collaborative, all the schools, their calendars, and also the Board of Directors calendar for FY 2023. We had our first budget meeting, which I've been a part of the subcommittee of that budget committee for quite a few years, and that followed our regular meeting. We'll have a second as we're going through the budget. We kind of heard the needs and what the collaborative really feels they need going forward for the next year. And our enrollment in the services have stayed up, which is good. Enrollment between the schools we have, and then we go into summer programs. We also expanded a temporary adult day services because we had someone aged out, but we need really to continue that person along in the path that they've been, at least through the end of this school year. So I thought that was quite nice and something to mention. And again, the services have just, they've been phenomenal. That other schools are taking part in making sure that their students have what they need and so forth. And I think you all know we're getting Lauren on this, on the Pilgrim Area Collaborative within the schools for special education.
Great.
So that was it.
Any questions for Steve? No? Good. One housekeeping note, we didn't have it on here as a separate bullet, but it does fall under subcommittee. We had done appointments for negotiations for the other units. And then we had said Hillary, but she needed to clarify something, and we had David as an alternate. Hillary did clarify and didn't get the answer that she was hoping for, so she will not be able to do negotiations for C, so that'll be David. So we just need to reflect that formally so that we can do that. And thank you for agreeing to do that. Yeah. And that, I think that's all we have, so.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Great.
Mr. Trotter would be happy.
Have a good night, everyone. Yeah.